Hey y'all, welcome to Spirit Mail. I'm Cheryl, and this is Daily Mail episode 29 or 30. I'm not real sure. But I wanted to say, it'll be in the description. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you so much for all the positive feedback I got from the Thanksgiving Day message, and thank you for putting up with my tears of gratitude and humility. And I also want to say I apologize to those who don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I'm glad. I think there was one lady from the Netherlands, and she said we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I'm grateful for having the channel, this community to be a part of. So it just, we live in our own little bubbles. I forget that this goes out to other countries. Tonight I want to talk about ethical manifestations, and it's not a term that I see, like I just Googled it a while ago because I know there's a reference in a book that I read, and I'm even sure of which book it was. It would take me forever to go find it in the book. So I just kind of Googled it real quick, and it's not even a term. And this may end up not even being a popular video after you finish hearing what I have to say, but I want to talk about ethical manifestations. The house that my family and I lived in right before I left my husband, I manifested that home into our reality. The gentleman had it for sale, and he had it for sale for about $100,000 over what my comfortable budget would have been. And I told him he would never get that for it. Well, he did. And so I was driving down the road one day, and I looked that way, and there was a U-Haul trailer unloading. The people that purchased the home were unloading. And I looked at that, and I looked back at the road, and I was like, that is my house. And the way that I'll never forget it. It's like some rumble took over inside of me. Not a rumble like it was like a mountain moved inside of me. Ooh. But then I just let it go and went about my business. Well, about a year and a half later, or not even a year and a half, a little over a year later, this realtor calls me because they are the home is being foreclosed on. And he calls me because he needs some comps. I'm a broker, right? So he calls me because he needs some comps. And I said, well, give me the address. What do you need comps for? And whenever he gave me the address, I didn't even have to look it up. I knew exactly which house it was. And I said, you're kidding me. Well, it turns out I ended up buying the home for about $125,000 less than what the guy sold it for. So for quite a while, basically what I would tell people is I manifested that because I said, this is my house. I didn't say that with the intention of manifesting it. I said it because it's how I felt. And, but whenever you start learning about law of attraction and all that stuff, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. I manifested that house into my life. But the way it worked was I just said it and I truly felt it, and then I didn't revisit it again. I mean, because in my mind, again, I wasn't trying to manifest it. I was just making a statement. And then I left it there and I went on about my business because there was nothing I could do about it. Well, then a year later, it becomes mine because I bought it. My husband and I bought it. But anyway, so later down the road, I'm reading this book by Florence Scovel Shinn, I think is how it's pronounced. It's called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it's an older book, and it's about all of this kind of stuff, manifesting things into your life. And how our words are so powerful, and our emotions, whenever the feelings that we have with these words. If The Secret is the only book you've ever read about manifesting things, I suggest you read The Game of Life by Florence Scovel Shinn. I suggest you read Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious Mind is a really good one. You can get that one. You can get both of those actually on in the free domain for audiobooks. And the Thomas Troward lectures, the Edinburgh lectures by Thomas Troward. Listen to those things. They're from long time ago. I mean, in this, like in the early, I don't know what the time, a long time ago. But in that Florence Scovel Shinn book, I remember reading about this girl. She said, and she wanted this particular house, and it wasn't for sale, blah blah blah. Next thing she knew, but she was manifesting it into her reality. Next thing she knew, the man's wife died, and the man didn't want to live there by himself, so then he sold it. So she was having a conversation with Florence Scovel Shinn. She said, "Do you think I caused that woman to die?" And Florence Scovel Shinn says, well, she says, "I'm not going to say that necessarily." And I don't remember the exact words, but basically what she said is we have to be careful with our words and with the way that we manifest things into our life. So basically what I gathered from that was, like, those people that bought that house that I wanted, when I said, "This is my house," this is my house. And I was so serious because I really wanted that house. I mean, they had bought it, so there was nothing I could do about it. But I said it, and I'm telling you, I felt a mountain move inside of me. Next thing I know, I'm buying it. But those people that lived there, so after I read that thing in Florence Scovel Shinn, I had to ask myself, did I cause those people to get foreclosed on? Now, I know that's given myself a lot of power, just like in the book, that would be giving that girl a lot of power, that the man's wife would die and then he would sell it. But really and truly, we have to stop and think about the things that we're manifesting, and we need to leave a way open for the universe to give us the equivalent or something better. Because if these people that lost this house weren't, into the, if they were just going on about life and not thinking about the need to protect their home from people, ignorant people like me, who's putting the universe on task to get something done for me, they're not thinking anything about it. Does this actually happen? I don't know. I think it would be a great thing to go find out. Now, listen, I'm going to say this real quick. I don't want anybody out there saying, "Cheryl, you can't take responsibility for that." Just like whenever I said, I worried about my daughter being molested, and then guess what? She ended up being molested. And somebody said, "You can't take responsibility for that." I'm telling you, there are things that we need to stop and think about and take responsibility for. And we need to, whenever we can own our part in it. And I'm not saying that I'm so powerful that I caused those people to lose that house. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's the power of whenever our thoughts and our feelings connect. I'm telling you, I literally felt something shift inside of me that day. I can tell you exactly where I was on the road, and the feeling that came up inside of me whenever I said those words. I mean, I cannot even explain it to you. But so ethical manifestation, it's not a term out there, but it's a term that I think we need to really start thinking about. If I manifest this, let's take, for instance, a soulmate, right? I like this guy. I'm just saying, there's no guy that I like, but I'm just saying, I like this guy and I want him to be my soulmate. So I'm manifesting him into my life. Well, first and foremost, I want to ask you a question. Does he want you in his life? That's a good question. The second question is, if God gave him free will, and if God, who created him, and his angels and his archangels and his Holy Spirit, if all of that team will not interrupt, will not get in the way of his free will, who do we think we are to do that? It's just something to think about. I mean, is that even an ethical thing to do? And I guess, I had a reading the other day, and if you're watching, know that I'm not picking on you. Please know that. This is something I think needs to be talked about out there, because you see it so much whenever in the comment sections, not necessarily on this channel because we don't do a whole lot of love stuff. I'm feeling very convicted about that, actually, that, I just don't even know if I'm going to continue to do love stuff. But is it ethical for us to manifest a certain somebody into our life? And is it even possible? Because I'm just wondering if they're spiritually asleep. I mean, it's a good thing to think about. If they're spiritually asleep, can our desire to have them in our life, do we have that kind of power that we could actually manifest them into our life? And then how true is that relationship? How long lasting would that relationship be is the other question. Just something to really think about. What is there an ethical aspect to manifesting? Because I believe there is. If you listen to Abraham Hicks, I think she talks about that, but she talks about it more on the level, I think, of, she may talk about it as far as people's free will, but I know she talks about on the level of limiting the universe. We don't want to limit God or the universe by saying, this is what I want, because God may have something better for us. So we say, this is what I want, or better if you have it, or better, or whatever, or equal to or better, to leave it open for the right thing. What's divinely mine? Ernest Holmes talks about that. What's divinely mine? That's what I want in my life. What is divinely intended for me? Not necessarily what my flesh wants because he's hot or anything like that. And then back to that house, I really, after I read that book by Florence Scovel Shinn, it's called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And whenever I read that part about that woman and manifesting that house, I was like, oh no. And whether I did or I didn't, whether I was the cause of that my manifestation was the cause of that foreclosure or not, is irrelevant, because it made me really stop and think about, what am I doing here? Am I out inadvertently casting spells on people that they can lose something so I can take it? I mean, I would never do that intentionally. That would not ever be my intention. But is that inadvertently what happened? So it's something for us to think about. Ethical manifestation. Is our ethics an aspect that we should consider when it comes to manifesting things into our lives? Okay. So Ernest Holmes, Joseph Murphy, the Edinburgh Lectures by Thomas Troward, and The Game of Life by Florence Scovel Shinn. I think you can get all of them on, or at least snippets of them talking on YouTube. I'm a big audio person because I like to move around while I'm listening. But yeah, tell me what you think about that in the comments. I'd like to know. And again, I am not thinking, don't tell me, oh, you didn't cause that. It's something to think about. What are your thoughts on it? Don't tell me, did you think I caused it or not? I want to know, what are your thoughts on it? Is there an ethical aspect to manifesting that we need to consider or that we should think about? God, guides, angels, archangels, Holy Spirit, I thank you so much for this lovely channel and the lovely people that follow Daily Mail. And I ask you to give us the PS. Show me what I could have said better or what I might have forgot to say. We thank you for clear and concise messages, love, light, and prosperity. And we thank you for clarification, confirmation, and validation. Please show us, what is the PS that goes along with this message and this episode of Daily Mail? Okay, so whenever I see this card, sometimes I read it a couple different ways. Sometimes, it's like somebody's getting left out in the cold, right? But the other thing I think is that whenever I look at it is walking away from what we've been taught. So let's think about that with manifesting. We've been taught, if you want something in your life, you manifest it. These are the steps. This is what you do, all that stuff. Some people are real good at it. Some people struggle at it or whatever, but do we need to think about what we've been taught? Is there an ethical aspect to manifesting that we're not thinking about? Do we need to walk away from the idea of just manifesting whatever into our life? Or should we think about how does it affect other people if we manifest that particular thing into our life? Something to think about, right? Everything's a choice. I love this card because everything truly is a choice, and everything has a good and a bad. That's another thing Abraham Hicks talks about, and I didn't say that in that other thing, but she talks about the fact that if you're thinking about money, remember if you're wanting to manifest money, remember that there's two sides to that stick, right? There's a positive side and there's a negative side. So while you're saying the positive things in your affirmations, what's the emotional part of you? Is it pulling down on the negative side of that stick? Because in your mind, you really have a lack mentality about it. So what's a better feeling thought about money might be something to think about. But everything is a choice. There's positive and negative in everything. And we blindly walk forward in our life saying, oh, we're going to manifest this because we watched The Secret. Nothing against The Secret. The Bible is another good book to read whenever you want to talk about manifesting, because that's what Jesus did. He manifested health and wellness into people's life. He manifested food to feed the sick, to feed the people that followed him out to the wherever he went, and he manifested wine from water. He was a master manifester. He knew how to do it because he said. It's not me, it's my Father in me. And that's the way we manifest. It's our Father in us. But he's not going to tell us we can't. He's going to manifest into our lives whatever we think we want. That's why should we be careful about it? There's good and bad in everything. And we blindly walk forth and think, oh yeah, I want that. Just something to think about. Look, this is what we're here for, to have abundance in our life, but to have it in a way that is sustainable for everybody, and to have it in a way that is, this is for me, generational and legacy type abundance, right? Well, that comes whenever everybody is being fulfilled in the manner in which they desire. Not just me and my poor Prince Charming got manifested into my life because he was spiritually not awake. And I know that's a little bit like way out there as far as how something like that could happen. But I really think it's something that we should think about, because this is our true destiny and our true birthright to have this abundance. And if we could just trust that divine, that source, God, has the best intentions for us. And if we could truly love ourselves the way He loves us, if we could believe in Him the way He believes in us, if we could really understand what we're here for by His design, then we could relax and it would just come into our lives in ways that we could never imagine. I really believe that. So yeah, tell me in the comments, what do you think about the ethical aspect of manifesting? What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to know. Also, I opened a Teespring store. If just in case you didn't know yet, check them out. The display colors are not the only colors available. Click on it and there's other colors available. And until next time, you guys go out and have a super duper day. I love y'all so much. Bye.